Thank you so much. So, yeah, we just opened a few days ago this Dharma Point. So it's going to be the place for the monastic Sangha to serve the community, and also, of course, to be a better place to work for the new monastery. So, thank you so much. So now Marco is starting to recite. Chonyi, please.
The three principal aspects of the path. I bow down to my perfect gurus. The essential meaning of the victorious Buddha's teachings, the path praised by all the holy victors and their films, the gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation, this I shall try to explain as much as I can. Those who are not attached to the pleasures of circling, who strive to make freedoms and endowments meaningful, who entrust themselves to the path pleasing the victorious ones, the fortunate ones listen with a calm mind. Without the complete intention definitely to be free from circling, there is no way to pass it by happy, seeking pleasurable effects in the ocean of circling. Also, by braving for cyclic existence, embodied beings are continuously bound, therefore at the very beginning, seek renunciation. Freedoms and endowments are difficult to find, and life has no time to spare. By gaining familiarity with this, attraction to the appearances of this life is reversed. By thinking over and over again that actions and their effects are unbetraying, and repeatedly contemplating the mysteries of cyclic existence, attraction to the appearances of future lives is reversed. When, by having trained in that way, there is no horizon, even for a second, of attraction to the perfections of cyclic existence, and all day and night the intention seeking liberation arises, then the thought of renunciation has been generated. Even if renunciation has been developed, if it is not possessed by the mind of enlightenment, it does not become the cause of the perfect bliss of unsurpassed enlightenment. Therefore, the wise generate the supreme mind of enlightenment. Swept away by the current of the four powerful rivers, tied by the tight bonds of karma so hard to undo, caught in the iron net of self-grasping, completely enveloped by the total darkness of ignorance, endlessly reborn in cyclic existence, ceaselessly tormented by the three sufferings, thinking that all mothers are in such a condition, generates supreme mind of enlightenment. In short, like the mother whose cherished son has fallen into a pit of fire and who experiences even 1 second of his suffering as an unbearable eternity, the reflection on the suffering of all mother sentient beings has made it impossible for you to bear their suffering for even 1 second, and the wish seeking enlightenment for their sake arises without effort. Then you have realized the supreme precious mind of enlightenment. Without the wisdom realizing ultimate reality, even though you have generated renunciation in the mind of enlightenment, you cannot cut the root cause of circling. Therefore, attempt the method to realize dependent arising. One who sees the cause and effect of all phenomena of both cyclic existence and the state beyond sorrow as forever unbetraying, and for whom any object trusted in by the grasping mind has completely disappeared, has at that time entered the path pleasing the Buddhas. If the appearance that is unbetraying dependent relation is accepted separately from emptiness, as long as these two understandings are seen as separate, then one has still not realized the Buddha's intent. If these two realizations are happening simultaneously without alternation, and from merely seeing dependent relation as completely unbetraying, the definite ascertainment comes that just completely destroys the way all objects are apprehended as truly existent. At that time, the analysis of the ultimate view is complete. Furthermore, appearance eliminates the extreme of existence, and emptiness eliminates the extreme of non-existence. If you realize how emptiness manifests in the manner of cause and effect, then you are not captivated by wrong notions holding extreme views. In this way, you realize exactly the vital points of the three principal aspects of the path. Resort to seeking solitude, generate the power of effort, and quickly accomplish your final goal, my child.
Tangyen chodang choyi shanso je chonam tangyen chodan tangyen chodan chodan tangyen chencho jebe tenam je chonam sangye nam chodan choyo tangyen chodang chodang choyi chonam chencho tangyen tangye chaso cha tangye chenyen gebe chonam Sangha Sangye Toba Sangye Chodong Chodong Choji Chonam Chencho Tangye Tangye Chaso Tangye Chenye Gebe Chonam Tangye Tangye Nangye Toba Chayo 독세 당저 당다 산제 초점을 철숨도 만나신 신이더니 다불ung 최디 다 접수 좋아 문도 송아 아 점도 체 안에 다가 나신다 다 아니 심게 어떻시네다 아니 가서는 심지 탐지기 된 주변의 치도 안에 따른 담배 최대 년배다 아니 장주 심지 꿀ung 어틴데 주신 년도나 아니 강 최타바디 아니 오늘 직다 펜신부 여태바시 아니 섬나 펜 여태바시 어틴다를 저런 꿀 tin데 주지 새로 나서
First, I implore you to generate a good motivation, similar as to what we have expressed while reciting the prayer of refuge for 3 times. So that means generating a virtuous mind, generating a mind of bodhicitta, a mind wishing for enlightenment, and then thinking if I listen to the teachings with this kind of motivation, this kind of attitude, then it's going to be very beneficial for myself and for others.
Thubten 학벌도 당저다 최세디 semla jurwa tangi tela 최스가 semla jurwa tangi 다 sem야 소저 잡체 sem야 부수야기다 탑딜라다 최스기요래 자당먼저 최니에 대하다 다 산제기 가려 송도 다 랑기 셈 머롱아티 아니 짓다 매봤어야게 탑시 가래가래 송도가 좀 된대. 어떻시니다? 셈 대시 다 조조 디시도 연구고요래. 그런 셈 모르와. 그랑라 동아때니 셈 어디 아니 매봤어야게 치도 아니 산지 가래가래 송어라. 탑시 가래가래 송도가 어디 약부시 연기 어떻시니다? kulung tinte chö tumna ani chigre ne ani chig nyen dukana soso gita ani pake karaswana sem marwa tingi ani ta chö tugudu midu tabshi tila tene ani laba nangshin takta redu midu ta soso shimchuk cheche ani mana chig redu samze semla ta ishe nye che ani ta nyamna chigwayachi. Okay?
So when we're saying Dharma, that we're literally really talking about what method we can use to improve the mind. So Dharma here means we're using this Chö or this Dharma or to benefit and change our mind, meaning getting rid of improper states of mind, non-beneficial minds, non-beneficial emotions, and seeing how we can embrace a more positive attitude or more positive emotions that we can generate. And how we're doing this is by analyzing the mind, analyzing the method, this Dharma that we're going to use to improve our minds. And by listening to teachings in this way, we can gain great benefit from them.
독신이 다 독신 당한저 가정다 람리 냠gur 당한저 가정 신의 꽃이 수사바데 당한저디 셔럽 다 셔럽 디셰베 갑데레 디 자와디 신나 기랑을 요토 로 가정저 참디 신의 차바데 셔럽 어디 카드레 셔럽 사모딩이 따에미 시베 자와 통의 진벨로 소라군의 앞에 연대데 디모무스 좀 쳐도서 the Russian tabde kyabani lamdi bebat me kyabas jizulame nyamna tadu da teje kyang chalo sta otire da shiro she katoti.
So as you know, last time we left off having finished the instructions on the perfection of concentration. So we are continuing with verse number 33, which reads, wisdom is the eye that sees profound suchness, it's the path eradicating psychic existence from its root, its treasury of higher qualities that are praised in all scriptures. It's known as a lamp dispelling all darkness of delusions. Knowing this, the learned ones who aspire for liberation endeavor with multiple efforts to cultivate this path. I, the yogi, have practiced in this manner. You who aspire for liberation should do likewise. So these two verses are the section on the training in wisdom.
tire da dekabla shiro samos tingi tawe mik da shiro sedi da kapti shiro da shiro lo mangbu yobe nangne da 동반이 tenjungi tekwanani shebe da lodi da mik nangshingres da nganzo kita mik nangshingres tukjani sungachi.
So here we are talking about the wisdom, the profound wisdom that sees emptiness. So this profound emptiness described here is likened to our eyes in the sense that it enables us to see the true nature of things. So we are talking about the wisdom or the profound wisdom realizing emptiness.
어떻게 능신 다 가르쳐라 디아다 배나 당한저 값을 보고 셰디를 팅월라 다 진바 추림 소바 섬데 디고딩가 시차르와 버진나기 남셔디 팅월라 슈차레 저당 틴데 배나 진배 냠래네 섬댕이 파징이 냠래 버도 가져 그 타고 여봤다 가져 곰 잡아 이나 티직부다 가르스나 파기 산적이 살아 좀 못해야지 냐버도 셔럽 거야지 어때 셔럽디다 디메나 콜로나 시레 스기어레 페나 파루도 치망가디 다 믹메베 로아 로아 믹베베 로아 아니 곧 서제션 바테다 텔라 두투고 말와 곧 믹메베서 두투고 말와 야라 가주 탕보이나 두투고 말해 어빼티동 자체 다 퍼진가디 아니 믹메베 로아나 신스 어떻게는 잔네 숨비어레 다 셔럽디 다 믹단 데메 강사나신 독신이 다 도드바나라 텐데 빼자는 송야라스 좀 된대기.
So as you well know, we've previously covered the other five perfection from generosity up to concentration. And in a sense, you can liken these to a blind person that does not know where the path is or how to reach the desired result, in the sense that however much you practice the first 5 perfections, they are not going to result in enlightenment if they are not conjoined with the proper practice of wisdom, realizing the final mode of reality. So in that sense, this perfection, the 6th perfection of wisdom, profound wisdom, is likened to the eyes, in the sense that it leads the person who is then here likened to the other 5 perfections to the right result, meaning liberation. So that's why it's called in the eyes, or why this wisdom is likened to the eyes that sees the profound suchness.
텐데체 다 퍼진 나디 다 원해지다 거기 셔럽이 퍼진이 촉체체다 순대체체 아니지다 퍼진 나이 등 셔럽 퍼진 순대체도 쓰지 말나 원해지다 거기 산제 살아 도트베 동아게 자와메바 소트베 어틴데.
So in order to be able to eradicate the root of suffering or the root of psychic existence, it is necessary for those first 5 perfections to be conjoined with the practice of the perfection of wisdom, or the profound wisdom. So in order to reach the desired result, it is necessary to have the first 5 perfection as well as the perfection of wisdom, of course.
다 건다 셔럽지 다 미나신 다 쉬우 계신 분 같이 다 셔럽이 퍼진이냐면디 다 먼저 다 온레 다 미나신 쉬우 계신 분 같이 다 대송거야래 저장다 셔럽 매바이나 아니 집에냐면에 아니 디네 파스 아니 짐바 수짐 소바 삼데 아니 디네냐면에 가져 누가 신부지 여바 제바 있나요? 동아 자와 매바 수트거 그래서나 수트고 말했은 거야. 다 간다. 동아 자와 매바 수트고 말해. 동아 자와 매바 쇼발라 동원에 지 보겠다. 시럽 거야. 삼모 땡중기 태관난 이십 시럽 세디 거야 셔시 뒤면 안 무트베시 저단티 와들라 시베 자와 투네 진벨람스다. 시베 자와 아니 단지 말이 바샤세. 티 자와네 매바 소야기 람디 사모 땡중기 태관난 인식에 따와 데려다 소에들에 시베 자와 투네 진벨람.
So this first 5 perfections that go from the perfection of generosity and morality, patience, joyous effort, and concentration. So these are, even though they are important to really lead us to desired result, meaning full enlightenment, they have to necessarily be conjoined with the training in the 6th perfection, which is the perfection of wisdom. So this is why, obviously the analogy of the eye makes a lot of sense, because to know where to go, it is necessary to have eyes and see where the path is. So that you can see from that this is making it important, and then you can see, as indicated in the next verse, really to eradicate the root of cyclic existence, meaning the grasping to the self of person and phenomena. To eradicate this, you need the profound wisdom, realizing dependent origin, or the subtle mode of dependent origination. So to cut the root of psychic existence, this is compulsory, so to speak, is necessary to have this wisdom.
도신 근데 단다 가르쳐다. 아니 단다 가르쳐래. 배나 단다 창주 람드 나라 틴데 람드 나라 틴데 그래. 창주 람드 나라 틴데 송도 탑당 타위 셔럽단 타위 탑 디니가 청와래였다. 탑당 되서 탑당 타위 셔럽대 청와래였어. 아니 셔럽을 탑대야 청와래였어.
And this is also, you can see this from Atisha's lamp on the path to enlightenment. It is saying there as well, if you have method devoid of wisdom, it will not lead to desired result. And the same way, if you have the wisdom devoid of the method or separated from the method, it will also not lead to the desired result. So, it's necessary to have both, to have the method part and the wisdom part, as it says in the Lamp on the Path to Enlightenment.
또 제장다 텔라베나다 탑당 타위 셔럽기 다 탑 매바체 셔럽지부 여바이나 미팅하시 다 탑당 타와체 다 그러고 아니 셔럽지부 여바티나 되게 다 가래를 찡게 돼서나 다 냥대를 칭대시 진짜야 가서 시와 냥대 텔라다 칭체대시 탑세드 급소와 탑디다 다 장주의 섬다 돈이도 배다와라 자라와 제셔셔디 조데텔라 자라 다 장주에서 인자로 소바 매바서 돈이도 배 셔럽지부 여바이나 다 빈냥대를 칭체 와 당은 미네베 냥대 세죠와 로 제가다 텔라 미네베 냥대 토마토 와시 멘베 냥대 다가랑 같다 찡체대시 탑당다 닝지 침보당다 심게라 소바 매바이나 탑지고 여바데 산제 투구여 말아 고 칭대기여 냥대들.
So we can elaborate on this in a sense that if you have a wisdom realizing emptiness that is separated or devoid of the method part, in this, meaning the mind of enlightenment and bodhicitta and so forth, it will go to grasp to the extreme of peace, meaning the lower kind of nirvana, or what we are striving for is the so-called means the non-abiding nirvana, meaning the actual Buddhahood of enlightenment is what we are striving for. So in order to not fall into a lower nirvana, which is the extreme of peace, it needs to be conjoined with the method part, meaning with the mind of enlightenment and bodhicitta. So it is important to have both sides.
독신이 제자다 다가나신다 셔럽던 변나 셔럽던 타베 탑직부장 다 미디게치 다 로 셔럽던 체제다 chanju samda nyingjawa sopa otin tabji chabarji tinde nyapsalomba tichikbu chabayna yang tiya chingdonga shi tiita kawala chingasana kawala chingashi kawala chomatashi wana chanju sam chikbu kom nyingji chimbu chikbu kom daga nanshin ji sopaji nga tichikbu kombayna kawala chotukuya mara jazangda kawala chingtayashi zan sharabdan tawacha tab chikbuina sharabda chingwa
And then reversely, if you strictly focus on the method side, meaning the other five perfections, you will be bound by the extreme of samsara. If you compare it to the falling into the extreme of peace and the extreme of samsara. So if your method part is not conjoined with the perfection of wisdom, meaning the wisdom realizing subtle dependent origination, you will not be able to achieve liberation from psychic existence, because you will not be able to eliminate the root of psychic existence. So again, you see that you need both sides of the coin. You need the method and you need the wisdom. So this is to finish up the quote from the Lamp on the Path to Enlightenment. So method devoid of wisdom, you will fall into grasping, and in the same way, conversely, if you have the wisdom devoid of the method, you will fall into grasping both sides.
최근에 다티레 페나 단남주다 간데스기나 페나 셔럽 세지오로 왔다 셔럽 세드다 베베치나라 셔럽 신 책니 용도와 다티 고랑게다 시 세드 가르스나 다 모연네수 다 모연네수 간이 다 잡아체체 다 통다 간이 잡아체체 다 셔바 세시레 로 모연네수 간이 잡아체체 셔바 세시 셔럽 세 세시도가 어때?
So when we are talking about wisdom, the Tibetan word here is sherap, which is divided into two syllables, she and rap. So Shiva here means Shiva refers to, let's say, an analysis of how things exist, or looking into the mode of abiding of things or phenomena.
그러와 다 독신에 어떤 랍스나 다 약쇼세 되래 다 지나는 시럽기 나는 약쇼세라 고치고도 와다 다던도 랍세디 다 약쇼세라 고치고야 돼다 뭐였는 저 가레임에 다 시럽 진얘기 다 시럽 약쇼티스다 다 독신에 배 시럽세 독람나 지금에도 어디
And the second, the etymology of the second word or the second syllable in Tibetan is rab, which means best. So it's quantifying or evaluating this wisdom as the best wisdom. So this is what we are looking for. We are looking for this wisdom that analyzes the mode of the abidance of things, and this is then called the best or the supreme wisdom.
어떻게 저다 다 디스도 가라 단단히 나라는 집에 자와 투는 진벨람 세다 원에 집하기 먼저 믿어봐디 동아래 믿어야 돼 동아래 다 동아할 때 매봐 써봐라 동아에 자와대 매봐 쏘고 그여래 다 동아게 자와 매봐 쇠기 다 원에 집다 셔럽 초도 좋아 람 초도 좋아 세디 가르스나 된중기 태권한 집에 따와 세디다 차트고 해야 돼. 저는 셔럽 랍 세디한 딘데 고치고도 당먼저 자와 농하게 자와 고려에 자와 시베 자와 가려는 다 자와는 내봤어야지 다 셔럽 초도 좋아서 다 된중에 태관은 시베 따와서래 돈이 또 따와서 가려는 어디래
So what is this supreme or ultimate or best wisdom that we are looking for here? It is the one that uproots the cause of all our suffering, meaning that the view realizing subtle dependent arising is the one that can eliminate the view or can eliminate the view of the transitory collection, which will be the root of psychic existence. So this is then what eliminates all the things that we do not desire, meaning or any kind of unpleasantness or suffering. So this is this best wisdom that we are talking about here, is the one that eliminates the root of cyclic existence.
된대신이다 다 가르소래 된대 인상 가래 보기 있단다 더 셔러니 보나라 땅을 좀 남주다 돈이 또 셔러를 떠봐 막방만 보도가 셔러니 보나라 요래 다디 가르스나 다돈도 돈이 또 로딜라 쓰게요 돈이 또 로딜라 땅하게 민다세 리포침베 마 라나메베 마 미냠바도 냠베 마 동아담제 르도 쇼르치베 마 미즈보는 담르샤바치베 마 독신이다 떠봐만 못제래 다통다 로다 동아담제 르도 쇼르치베 마 세디다 나게 민다세 조조 돈이도 싫어도 쓰게요 봐 돈이도 싫어도 나게 쓰니다 당했던 지금도 싫으니 몰라
We can also see this wisdom being praised to the highest extent in many texts. For example, the Heart Sutra. There's many ways of praising the perfection of wisdom or the wisdom realizing emptiness, calling it a mantra, meaning something that protects the mind, and or saying this is the supreme mantra, the mantra that eradicates all suffering, the one that is supreme from any other mantra, and so forth. So this in Tibetan or mantra is what in English means something that will protect your mind. So what does it protect it from? It protects it from suffering. So this you can also see that this perfection of wisdom or this wisdom realizing the subtle dependent origination is the main object explained here.
된대 인상 당내 가라 독신이 제다다 돈이 또 셔럽디 아니 가르소를 보게 가르치려고 선지 독신 돈이 또 셔럽은 또 담바시 신도 가라 달람 람기 담바 스니 직 순거로 와 달람기 담바 세디 다디야다 람기 담바다 보기 신도 가라 조조 돈이 또 셔럽디 고고고야 알아. 아디 맞다. 겹숨 쉐베 깔라 겹뭐 납시다. 다 람덴데 겹뭐 스세티. 뭐네기 다 동알이 겹을 지니기 겹뭐데 수레스나 다 람기 땜바. 다 최근조 세티. 알아. 다티 카르스나 람기 땜바. 람기 땜바 강아르스나 단다 디세티데 돈이도 별로티. 알아. 제가 돈이도 별로티 현담데 누가 첨부 해봐시. 알아. 어때?
So likewise, we can see the importance of this wisdom, for example, in the explanation of the Four Truths, Four Noble Truths, when we are talking about the truth of the path, which actually leads to the true cessation, which is the end of the suffering. This true paths, we're talking basically about the wisdom realizing emptiness. And likewise, when we're talking about taking refuge in the three jewels, the actual refuge is the ultimate Dharma. And when we're talking about what is the ultimate Dharma, this is true paths in one's own continuum. So again, we're talking about we're taking refuge in the thing that can actually alleviate the suffering, which is the wisdom realizing emptiness in its fullest form.
제가 당한 저 겹뭐 원내기 땅오수 겹녀디 강래스나다 원내서 랑 동안에 겹을 채디 남기 때봐 대야 가르스나 돈이 또 별로디 어디 숨겨야 돼.
So you can really see, that which is the actual refuge or the actual protector of yourself is your own wisdom realizing emptiness. So that is the one that will alleviate your suffering and will eradicate your own root of psychic existence. So, this again, you can see the importance of generating this wisdom realizing emptiness.
독신에 다 도시는 저 삼로지 땅바이나 benangan 졸었다. 가르스나 미드비동을 망보지 연구하래. 로 미드비동을 망보지 용해디 또 셔럽 매치. 셔럽 매비 낀치네 따톤다. 셔럽 매반자 따 신기야 말에. 마셔바체제 투이체 모두 동을 망보 용대시. 로 또 삼로 땅바이 나간 저 시트 배치래. 먼저 눈주체제 딴 눈주 중체. 셔럽 매바체 아니 친절로도 송 눈주차 아니 티 온게 먼저 동을 망보 용대시. 다 뒤다는 시트 배치래. 셔럽 매비 낀기.
So we can also think, in what does the absence of this wisdom look like? So the absence of this wisdom then leads you to have mistaken conceptions of the mode of reality or things in general, and therefore one engages in mistaken actions, and then the result from that will be the whole variety of suffering that we are experiencing while existing in psychic existence. So what is the way to get out of that? Again, is to have this recognition of the way things actually are, so that we are not mistaken, and therefore then no sufferings comes from the mistaken and misguided actions.
독신이 땅을 줬다 셔럽 고야디 시우 계심을 찾기 하래. 셔럽 여바이나 아니 어쨌든 욕담 망부지 시투야지. 욕담 망부지 마용야지. 욕담 망부지 여바이나 매버 서투야지. 셔럽 약부 여바이나 어때래? 셔럽 고야다 계심을 찾기 하래. 어때래?
So what we can take from this is that there is an extreme importance in generating this wisdom, because we can avoid all sorts of troubles, problems, and suffering that come from not having this wisdom. So what we can take from this verses here is that the importance of generating this wisdom in our own continuum.
근데 디스도 갈라 다디 레 쇼라람나 다 맞티바 메타 다 차단 땅을 줘 가서 남주 미타파 동아와 동아 다음에봐 스니다 더더 딘데 남셔 숨고도 와 어쨌든 티갑라다 미타버터베 셔럽 세다 동아와 또베 셔럽 세다다 동아또베 셔럽 아니 다음에버터베 셔럽 스니다 거 셔럽 미다와 망부 용구야래 알아
So also this Sharab, if we're going to go into this wisdom, we can go into a little bit more of a detail when it's talking about the four aspects of the noble truth of true paths, which all the four noble truths are divided into four aspects. So it's talking about the So talking about the impermanence, suffering, emptiness, and selflessness. So this, if you can further divide, if you want the wisdom into the wisdom, understanding or realizing impermanence, the wisdom and understanding suffering, and the wisdom understanding emptiness, and then the wisdom understanding selflessness.
tinda chedanta pena kalsoreta pena ta mitakbe pena kalsore mitakbe tosho takbar jimba setire ta tanda chinji lot simba pena rangla mikche rangi la mikche ta yana kansa shenla mikche ta ngone ji mitakbe rang shin yimba chikla ta mitakbe rang shin yimba de mashinba cheche ani chikta takbar jinche 아니 랑 딱바르 진짜 친절로도 쇼두고야래 뭐였는지를 미다바라와 딱바르 진바는 친절로도 쇼체다 당진티다 옹기 양아저 동al 망보시 게임고야래 알아봐 제가 딘데게다 당진라 때문에 동al 게디 매버소라다 미다바도 별로지 고고야래 로 미다바 셔바이나 안 딱바진데 당진데 매버샤지 되면 텔라 때문에 다 동al 때 용어 말와
So if we expound on this a little bit, so the first one, impermanence, meaning the opposite of that would be grasping to permanence. So meaning you're grasping something that in its essence or in its actual way of being is impermanent. But because of not realizing that and assuming it to be permanent, then from that a whole host of troubles will come. So these are, in a sense, these four wisdoms are dispelling four misconceptions or four wrong graspings to things. And the first one of these is grasping to impermanent things as permanent.
독신에 따땅아서 딸 먼저 다체단 다 미타바고 메디슈 계신부 책이야래. 먼저 딸레 탐보라 원해지 답하게 미타바라 진실된 거에 대해서 신담인데 누바심벌에 먼저 레 탐보라. 그거 아니지. 랑 미타바스. 랑이 풍부 미타바인 봐. 라바도 랑 미타바인 봐. 윤도 진실이 여바이나. 된도 미네바. 직배 취재인 봐. 남시 냐바메바 치워는 냐바 남시 냐바메바 딘데게 돈에다 윤도 텐셰 땡땡해지나 오늘 지다 동al 망보쇼 지다 명하지 동al 망보 두베리 좀 마서야나 신다면도 너가 전부 주인 거야래 텐셰다 땡토바이나 어떻게
So for us beginners, for example, contemplating impermanence is extremely beneficial and extremely important because you can, again, avoid a whole host of problems and sufferings that will come from the grasping to permanence, whether that be the grasping to oneself or the grasping to one's aggregates or the grasping to one's mind or any other sort of phenomena included in your person. So by grasping at this as permanent and not understanding them in the way that they abide, meaning being impermanent, a whole sort of problems will arise. So by realizing impermanent things as impermanent, a big chunk of problems can be avoided and suffering can be avoided. So therefore, it's very important for us to generate this wisdom realizing impermanence.
따띵은 좋다 윤도 곰자고에 틴데레 로아 갈선에 빼나서 소소 강한 망부 중하시 욕도 망부 중하시다 남도 빼나 차당 빼나 차당 천별로 다 님을로 쟁외디 로랑 따버진 바티기 시기도입니다 와 어텔라야 선로시 땅체 다 틴데레 때니 기기여 바디 현체 아니 다디 텔라 템베 차당의 로고에도 아니 냐버도다 미타바 현체 미타바 곰체 다 미타베 당신바 셰셰 아니 당진라 때니 개베 차당의 로디 누바충을 땅과해시 어떻게
As an example, we can see by meditating on the mind realizing impermanence or by generating the wisdom realizing impermanence in our continuum, we can reduce, even though maybe not eradicate from the root, but we can reduce wrong concepts, for example, having attachment and aversion to things that are pleasant or unpleasant, or to people that are unpleasant and pleasant, and so forth. So by meditating as oneself and as on those people as impermanent and understanding them in that way, one can already reduce a lot of problems that come from a very strong sense of aversion or grasping to things.
대신에 된 다가난 신다 갈소래. 그래, 다디 와, 아직 대신에 동아 왔어야 돼. 다던다 미다 동아 왔어다. 동아 왔으나다 동아 왔으나 다디 그래, 다 갈소래. 파기 다 조조티래. 배는 삭식이 대화팀도 아니 동아에 랑신도 마셔봐 체체 아니 나한테 탐지 대외 랑신도 대체 아니 현실 다 텔라 때네 텔라 죽체 다 동안 망부 지용돼야지 먼저 시트베시래.
So we're talking about the second one. So the first one was impermanence. Second one is suffering. So if we looking at the things that are in their nature contaminated, and therefore meaning having arisen through to karma and afflictions, they are in the nature of suffering, so to speak. So grasping to those as pure or seeing them as happiness will naturally lead to disappointment once we realize they are not of that nature. No? So understanding suffering also is very important. So the second wisdom, first one being the one understanding impermanence, the second one is the one being understanding or realizing suffering. So another one very important.
어떻게는 제단다 다는 야라티데 다 동아에 랑신도 셔바이나 사실 저와 대화 진짜 그는 사실 저와 대화다 아니 다 잡아듯이 동아다 네 아니 가르스나 보기 다 배나 동아에 랑신 진바시 아니 다 신도 받다 될라 천세된도 받다 어떤데 지다 여바이나 야 동al 망부 지가줘야지 어때.
So this, of course, is mainly referring, if we're thinking about the three kinds of suffering, meaning the suffering of suffering, the suffering of change, and the all-contaminated compounded suffering. So we're here talking mainly about what we would call contaminated happiness, which refers to the suffering of change, of course. And then we're also talking about the all-pervasive compounded kind of suffering. So in a sense, understanding that the natures of these things, which in the scripture would be called contaminated happiness, in the sense that they are in the nature of suffering, and in the sense, and eventually will lead to further suffering. So by understanding this, meaning generating this wisdom, realizing suffering as suffering, and getting rid of this wrong conception of grasping to things which are in the nature of suffering as happiness, one can avoid a whole host of problems and sufferings that will arise from this kind of grasping.
어떻게 다는 야라 다던다 랑 딱버진 바딜로 친실로 차야지 뒤 독초라 람미 답아 신고야지 다 아니 사체기 대화 진조 아니 대외 변나 대외 랑신도 대체 동al 중앙시 다팀 tin데 아니지 동al에 매봐서야라 동하게 랑신신도 셰베 셰랍 깨고야지 어때.
So these to eliminate these first two wrong conceptions, meaning this grasping to permanence of oneself and other impermanent phenomena, and then the second grasping to contaminated happiness and so forth as real happiness, meaning not understanding them as suffering. So these the first two aspects are impermanence and suffering. So understanding these two, already there will be a great benefit to oneself in that one does not fall prey to, having these wrong conceptions in one's mind, and then on the basis of that generating a whole sorts of negative things that come from that.
어떻게 대서 어떻게 다좀 되겠다 당부 뒤서 뒤에 탐제 미탁바 사제 탐제 동아와 스니다 좀 되겠다 저기 콜로 꼬린도 가라 당부도 못 꼬린도 서라 뒤송도 와 뒤에 탐제 미탁바랬다 사제 탐제 동아와랬다 스니다 송체 다텔라 진세지 땐도 봐이나 다 동을 망부 시다 매바 차두고야 돼 담다 윤용 차두고야 돼 어떻게.
So as we can see, from the first sermon of the Buddha, means the first instruction is to see suffering as suffering, or to understand impermanent things as impermanent, and things that are in the nature of suffering as suffering. So to get rid of those two wrong conceptions, meaning the grasping to permanence and the grasping to contaminated things as true happiness, is already getting rid of, well, maybe not from the root, but it's already alleviating and reducing a whole sorts of suffering that will come from following these kind of wrong conceptions, like we can see from this first sermon, which means no suffering and abandon no. See all compounded phenomena as impermanent, and all contaminated phenomena as suffering.
근데 디네다 가르쳐다 디네마 동아세다 통다 동아세 다음에 봐세 디네기 단위 연구도가 다 동아세다 그래다 가르쳐라. 다 두잖아 다 코디부세는 두잖아 약부인다 때나 동아세디 통다. 다 먼저다 다 세다 다스네미도 다 다스버라 다 강사 나 강사 세죠로 봐. 다디 가르쳐라 보기 딱지 라왕된 주바 진치 그러봐 아니 텐데 다디 딱바이 봐 텐데 다디 라왕이 봐 텐데 다디 직부와이 봐 딱지 라왕 진기 딱지 여바양 즉 신치 어디 놓친지로 찾기야 돼 셴바티建设년 동안 망부지 연구해야 돼 자자 뒤 독초라 다양 다 강사세디 딱바 많이 봐 아니 직보 많이 봐 라왕 많이 봐 어떠시니 뒤 동안이 봐 신시 야 동안 해봤어요 어떻게
So when we're talking about the third aspect of the first noble truth, meaning the truth of suffering, the first being impermanent, second being suffering, the third one is empty. So when we're talking about empty, so what we're talking about, it means we're mainly referring to what in general we would call the coarse selflessness of persons, meaning the person being empty of being permanent, the person being also meaning being impermanent. So, and then the person being empty of being unitary, and being empty of being, if you want, independent. So this is talking about the coarse selflessness of persons, meaning the person being empty of being singular, being permanent, and being autonomous or independent. So understanding that the person, conversely to this person, when we're saying we're talking about I, me, or the person, these are synonymous. So we're saying this is devoid of being being singular, being permanent, and being autonomous. So conversely, meaning it is, and the person is impermanent, the person is not singular, and the person is not autonomous. So by thinking about this kind of course, wisdom realizing the selflessness of persons, again, the grasping to the self and to the person can already be reduced quite a lot, and then suffering coming from that can also be reduced quite a lot.
디데 시도 관라 다 돈다 티레 다 디삼로 있다는 도 관라 가르쳐라 보기 동아 세디 소티레 다디 동아 세디 돈다 배낭 먼저 강다 나 강사 세디 딱지 라원신도 춥대바레 세디 페제다 치료베 투다모 페치기 다티레 딱지 라원신기 나 강사 세디 딱지 라원신도 추바레 스네 거런다 춥대 도 딱지 딘데지라 켈링기 요레 단 낭박이 페제페제 단 먼저 남지 dakme 세지어로 왔다 dakme 세디다 정말 잡아지 잡아이나 된데 딱지 영원증이 다 요말에 세시다. 그러다 치료배 두다 마든 저기 딱지 영원증이 다 요래 저선 딱 세디 요다스. 다 낭배 딱 세디 요말에. 가래 딱스는 다다 나다 강사디 딱지 영원증도 투요 맞다 세디다. 딱 매봐 쓰니까 양거 뱃거랑 그때 됐습니다. 이거도 뱃거랑 가가도 어때?
So if you were to look for a kind of a delineation between what would we consider a Buddhist and a non-Buddhist, or which is referred to here as an insider and an outsider, the delineating line, also part of the four seals, would be this talk about the selflessness, or what is here called empty. So we're talking empty of self. So this kind of self is kind of the smallest common ground, let's say, also to all the various tenet systems within Buddhism, in a sense that at least one would accept that there's no such thing as a person which is permanent, singular, and autonomous or independent. So if you want, this is kind of a delineation, or like a line saying, if you accept the person to be empty of those three features, then that would basically qualify as a Buddhist tenet. Whereas most of the outsiders or the non-Buddhist philosophies or religions would probably accept that there's such a thing as a person that is permanent, unitary, and autonomous.
어래 다디 변하다 치료배 주다 마 진조가 삼로 망보 지당체 변나 다세의 풍보도 직벌지장 샤는 지금도 나 풍보를 텐션바치 그리고 풍보 미다바래 다 미다고 샤는 지금도 나 도다고도 삼로 뭐 당시 다 미다바 샤바이나 저와 치마 쇼아도 가보치기요 거쳐 그리고 제단다 풍보 미다바 이만 나신다 남미다와 샤는 지금도 닥세리 딱바래다 가르서래 풍벌의 텐심에 딱바 라고 시부지 샤고도 쓴다 건조했다 삼놈망고 땅다 진대기 토는다 죽대도 딱바지 차겨야 돼 봐봐.
So the first of these superimpositions, if you want, in a sense of calling or saying that there is a person that is permanent, separate from the aggregates, is a, let's say, main feature of most of the non-Buddhist tenets, in the sense that if you wanted to posit future lives and so forth, if you were to say that the aggregates, which obviously are impermanent, were the person, it would be very difficult to then posit future rebirths and so forth, or the continuation in general. So this is why there will be a position or an acceptance of the position that there is such a thing as a person that will be permanent and separate from the aggregates. So that will be the first one.
딘데기다 답디 유다매 세디다 유다매 세기다 낭베다 요마레 치르베다 요아레 세기다 당해신구도와 어때래.
So when we're talking about this terminology here, this is really a delineating line, if you want, or like a border between what would qualify as a Buddhist tenet in a sense or not. So if you are accepting this, what here is the third aspect of the first noble truth of suffering, which is empty. So if you were to accept that, meaning empty or of a self that is unitary, permanent, and autonomous, then that would basically put you on the side of being a tenet holder of Buddhism. Whereas if you were to accept the existence of such a self, then that would put you outside of that.
어때? 다통다 풍보 어떤 뭐직바 샤 같은 것이 풍보 초반나 샤 같은 것이 풍보레베 치료나 lok바시다 dakseedi 샤고레 세다 치료비 때는 순구요래.
Yeah, meaning to clarify this position that there is a self that would be separate from the aggregates and separate from the collection of the aggregates and so forth. So most outsiders or most non-Buddhist philosophers would posit, or tenet holders would posit such a tenet.
다 낭베 틴데지 짠이 요 말했어. 다 탄다. 딱지 랑원싱이 dakseedi 자와 있는 요 말했어. 다 낭베 순구요래.
Whereas conversely, all holders of Buddhist tenets would say there's no such a thing as a self that is permanent, unitary, and singular.
네, 다 동아세디, 다 딱지 랑원싱이 dakme se ta tongwa se ti tilachana ta takchirong ji dakme otindegi ta sharab ji kyaba ina nimu mangbo shi nuba chungru dwala pendo yore otir.
So then generating this wisdom, understanding that this third attribute of being empty, meaning that there's no such a thing as a self that is permanent, unitary, and autonomous, or can have the benefit, or does have the benefit of already reducing, by not eliminating, a whole host of problems and suffering that come from grasping to such a concept.
tukshini ta tinani ta ani ta dakme se tama ta shibadiro dakme ba se ta tongwa dakme se ta dakme se ta kalsara pagi dishi jatang mangbu yungu yore ta tuta ma shi teni dishi jatang charaki namsha yungu yore tuta ma shiki ta dakme se chara mangbu dishi jatang chara yungde shi tindegi yang chabra yore.
So when we're talking about the fourth attribute of the First Noble Truth, meaning the attribute of selflessness, this can be explained according to the four systems of Buddhist tenets in the various ways, increasing in subtlety. This is when we're talking about the fourth attribute of being selfless.
tukshini chadanta telata tsikilapshani kyunda midu ta karsa dakme sede ta ranja chibe zegi dakme segi ta dakme suchik sungu yore. Tukshini ta tartu na tire karsari pagi. Karsari ta tartu na tare ta tajibi tibda ondu china ta rangi tsinyi tibi dakme sedi ta marwa nga ane kangsa sedi rangi wane tuyo mare, ta rangi tsingi tuyo mare, dambara tuyo mare, tukshini ta tindegi ta namshaji sungay chire, ta tawa ta tajibi tudong china, ta tardugi tawa, tenjungi tekwana yintubi tawa say, ta sherab shodu yuwa say di, ta ngola shuwe di ti chagi yore.
So if you were to explain this in a quick way, this selfless, meaning this fourth attribute of the First Noble Truth, the selflessness, if you were to explain that according to the lower schools, meaning the non-prasangika schools, this is referring to the person being empty of self-sufficient, substantially existent self. So this what we'd consider the subtle selflessness of persons. And then if you were to explain that according to the prasangika system, that refers to the self being empty of being inherently existent, meaning the explanation of this attribute of selflessness would be slightly different from the lower schools to the prasangika school, because in the prasangika school, obviously, all phenomena would be empty of being inherently existent in general. So the only thing that would be different would be the object, meaning here that is the person. So the person being empty of inherent existence would be the explanation of the wisdom of selflessness, or the wisdom of realizing selflessness of the person being empty of inherent existence. Existent would be this the explanation of this attribute of selflessness.
tukshini chadanta tagi shuwe di tire. Sibe tsawa tuni jimbe lam, sibe tsawa ta kurwe tsawa. Ani bet meba suyagi ta shirab sine midu, lam sine midu, ta ti karir sina, tanda shegi ta karisore pagi. Tenchungi tokana inshebe tawa seda ta, shodamji rangshi mebar tabe tawa. Rangi wane mebar shebe tawa, o tendeji ta, tila sunguya sibe tawa mebar suyagi ta, lamti, shirabti, oti.
So this is the wisdom that is mentioned here in the text when it says the path eradicating the root of cyclic existence, or eradicating cyclic existence from its very root. So what is this root? The root is this, is the grasping to things being inherently existent, the person and all phenomena. So by generating in our mind this wisdom realizing emptiness, or the wisdom realizing in general the absence of any kind of inherent phenomena, whether that be the aggregates, person, or whatever. So this will then, uproot the grasping to that existence, meaning the root of psychic existence. So if we can also sometimes call the root of the transitory, the view of the transitory collection, whatever. So to reiterate, this is the wisdom that we are trying to generate in our continuum. Is the wisdom that uproots the root of psychic existence, and that wisdom is then the wisdom realizing emptiness according to the Prasangika system.
다 송랍 군량 앞에 윤된 때렸다 송랍라다 변하다 막바 망보치에기 시럽대 디레 다돈이 또 시럽디 다 윤된기 때렸다 윤데 탐지 중사기 때렸다 하버드다 다도 산지 고방 중에기 때렸 아니 하버드 띠모베 무슬 나 띠모무슬다 띠모베 뭐바 사버치 드메나신 오 시럽디 로스기어 어디
Therefore, this wisdom here is likened to the treasury that contains all higher qualities, and that it is praised in all of the scriptures, and that it is likened to the supreme lamp, dispelling the darkness of delusion, and so forth. So this is all analogies and illustrate the importance and the, let's say, preciousness of this wisdom and the importance of generating this wisdom.
독신이 저다 다 대치도 갈라 다 갈수 된다. 배나 먼저도 섬을 땅에도 갈라 갈수를 보기 나 세트 배나 간대지 신기도 와 세트 딱 섬을 땅실에 나 수도 갈라 로라 간대지 시작이도 와 로나 강사 세트 다 소소 나 세트로 다나 세트다 로라 간대지 시작이도 왔으나 아니 보기 축뚝도 여봐지 로 풍보 촉배 띵디네 다배 툭대봐지 축뚝도 툭대봐지 먼저 로라 남기요래 먼저 다가 나왔나 신어도 다가 진득이요래 로와 어디 띠목세디 티래 나왔나 신 풍보 촉배원의 여반 나왔나 신 풍보 총배더니 여반 진바 띵내 여반 진바 딘데기 로디 다 띠목세디래 로와 가서 뭐 띠목세디 tel라셔야 돼.
So when we're talking about ignorance or not knowing here in this context, we're talking about, for example, if you're thinking about the eye and how the person or the eye, how it appears to the untrained mind, in the sense that we can apprehend the aggregates, and the eye appears to be something either contained within the aggregates or sitting, on top of the aggregates, or whether that be being separate or of one entity with the aggregates. And this is let's say the untrained mind apprehends it in that way. So, and if we're just taking it at face value, this grasping to the self, that would what we consider in the ignorance here, the not knowing. So the wisdom realizing emptiness, they look at how that does exist in reality, and then realizes basically that the way that it appears to the untrained mind is a misconception. So then that wisdom would counteract or abandon that misconception.
다단다 단능베 슝기 다타와 탈도 세디다 가르소네 더 디네 유기어레 가르소네 보겠다 풍봉원은 매바실라 여번낭체 잘라 신디기어레 다티 요마레 세다 틴데지 요마르다 세다 ton다 풍봉원은 나와 나싱은 신데반 키랑그 sem반 낭신기 나디 요마르다 세디레 어디 요마레스 매바시벨로디다 셔럽 세디티레.
So this wisdom we're talking about here is the wisdom that understands that the self, whether that be of persons or of phenomena, does not exist in that way that it appears to us. So meaning that is the wisdom that needs to be trained in. That is the wisdom that realizes the emptiness or the selflessness, meaning selflessness or emptiness of inherent existence. So this is the wisdom that would then uproot the cause of suffering, meaning this conception of apprehending the root of or apprehending the view of the transitory collection. So this wisdom is the one that we are talking about here in the ultimate sense, not that wisdom realizing emptiness.
제장 단다 세디티를 가르쳤단다. 제장 시비 자와, 다 시비 자와디 가르쳐는 말이봐. 나 강사 세디 풍봉 원에 매발라, 풍봉 원에 투바 짐바딜라 말이봐. 디코르 자와 쓰거. 티기다 동al 탐지 중사기 자와디 고착이야 돼. 그봐. 디착이 여장 동al 탐지 중사기 자와디 매발 셔발라. tin데 로 친실로도 매바 쓰고 그래야 돼. 로 친실로도 매바 써발라. 다가 나시 소소게 셔만나시 나디 미도 요 말에 신이 리페 둡체. 다 매바 셔벨로 지고 그래야 돼. 디 매바 셔바이나 신에 다 거여 자와라 봐. 아니 가서 넣어봐. 도체 다 매바 써야지. 다 남베 슝기다 투모마이 제주도 지착이야. 로
So this wisdom uncommon to or unique to Buddhist philosophy is this wisdom that we are talking about here. So again, this is the wisdom that sees the final mode of abidance of things, in the sense that it will look whether that I or that person or phenomena in general exist in the way they appear, and by analyzing that and by realizing they do not exist in an inherent way or in a sense that is independent or unitary or whatever, in the sense that there's no inherent existence of phenomena in general. So by training in their wisdom, one conversely one eliminates that wrong conception of grasping to true existence, which is the root of psychic existence. So this view of the transitory collections that views the I and the mind as inherently existent is the main object that needs to be abandoned, because that is the one that leads to an existence in psychic existence. Not so by training in this wisdom, one can then uproot this cause, or the root cause, if you want, of psychic existence. So this is the wisdom that we are looking for here.
알았다. 그 빼두잖아. 다 곧대 버시어래. 빼는다. 먼저다 남주. 빼나 탁받지라. 다 아니 저 두도 신체. 오늘 전화 탁받지 두 말아. 나 소소이다 지 랑가지라다 사르도 시도가라 빼는 랑가지라 탁받지 되버지 통바이나. 남상한저 로추셰. tella du nyambeta logic Geshe 오늘 du pagi du sedi logic Geshe ani semla ngamra 친구도 남사 신나 ngam라지 남사 lep테시 로와 아 tin데기 다 징나당 ngam다데 매바 써발라 다 팔레파 다 lokpar 카레버게나 수 심주 체제다 답제 체인도 갈라 다 다게 두 선배다 로디 신절로래 독신이다 심주 체인도 갈라 드디 매바 신도 갈라 데마타도 직발 매바 차게도 와 텔레티비 직발이 뺏 매바 차게도 와 알아 뺏티 뺏텐낭신 자체다 먼저 단다 욕다 중사 동알 중사에 자와디 나디 풍봉 원에 초바심이 셴바디래 또 냠도 신데기야 디 셴바디 달로 친절로래 디카도 신데나 땅에서 semla 강해지요 직바지요 어때 로와 다 틴데 다 리페 잡아치지 다 리페 잡아치지 틴데 다디 소소이 셴바디 로 투어 이망은 저 신림이도 다 리페 둡제 로디 투어레 샤스 다로 셴바디 네 투어레 샤 틴네 셴바노시 요 말했어 다니 미도 스다 다게 뺏는 신신 미도 신신소 아니 직발이 시도해시 어때
One of the famous examples from the text is liking the or saying this is akin to, for example, if you was to walk in dusk along the road and you would see a rope coiled up by the side of the road, and immediately you would have the idea, oh no, there's a snake, and then from this conception that there's a snake, fear arises and so forth, negative emotions arise. In the same way, by thinking that the aggregates or the self or any kind of phenomena exist truly or exist inherently, immediately all this other slur of negative emotions, and then from that negative actions, and then suffering will arise. So likewise, the wisdom realizing that there is no such a thing is likened to then maybe switching on your torch or something, and you see, there is no snake there, it's just a rope. So in the same way, by realizing how things actually exist, meaning being empty of inherent existence, being selfless, being empty of true existence, you then realize that this wrong conception that you have of things and the self being inherently existent is just a wrong conception, and that the self and the phenomena have never existed in this way at any point. So this is why understanding the mode of abidance of things is extremely important, because from there you can then by gaining an understanding of this, you will then be able to uproot the root of psychic existence, because this misconception or this wrong understanding that you've had since beginningless times about how things abide will no longer be there.
다 가르친다. 두시네. 돈다니 뭐데 티레. 당은 저기 풍부 띵네. 당 아시 또 냐면 즉 신득이라는 거라. 뭐네 직다디 풍부만의 민독스나다. 로로 잘 갖고 그랬다. 나 세대 풍부 원에 좁대 버시래셔. 풍부 원에 또 세시 당은서 로 친절없다. 숙청부 쉬 여대 버시. 어쩌다 다 되게见제제다 미드베동을 정말 용거랬어. 직바 탐제 티네 중화랬어. 그러 미드베동을 정말 티네 중화래. 아니 예외 동안 이다그 동안다 미 동안 하이 동안다 도와줘 동안 되네. 이날 티레다 정말 중서에 자오디 티레 숨겨야 나베. 제가 틴데기다 로 친절로디 매바 수고 그랬어. 그랬으나 다 다음에 따와서 틴데기 로 소소게 두 샴반나신 나디 더 요마레다 델라다 랑시 나랑시 메바토벨로 다 레 나다메 바토벨로 세기다 조조티티레 틴데지다 샴바이나 이직바 탐제 시주그레 세지레 저단다 틸랑은 좋다 달롭중 제대 티레 시라고리 달롭중 제 조조티티레.
So this is obviously our main object of study and of cultivation, is this wisdom, realizing emptiness, or realizing that this thing that we are inherently grasping to, which is the self kind of imputed or sitting somewhere on top of the aggregate, that then leading to all the sufferings of psychic existence, whether that be for all the 6 migrations from the hell realms up to the god realms and so forth. So all this stems from this wrong perception of the mode of reality, of how things, I and all phenomena exist. So naturally we can see that by the importance of training in this, this being our primary object of training, if you want, this wisdom, realizing the mode of reality of how things abide, because by doing this and by gaining this understanding, we can then get rid from the root, or at the root of all the problems that arise from having this wrong conception.
다통은 문제 다수 다티는 베저나티 내고도 내 탐제 코베 미드베 내 탐제 매버스기 맨 직보 세티 내가 당연히 그래. 디카르스는 맨 직보스다 맨 직이 내 탐제 매버스와 나시 다단다 돈이 또 로티기 다동 탐제 매버스 되지. 어디 누가 여버지 숨도 와.
So in the text also, this will be likened to the singular medicine that can get rid of all hosts of sicknesses, in the sense that if you generate this kind of a wisdom in your continuum, you can then get rid of all the sufferings that exist within psychic existence. So it's likened to the medicine that can alleviate or eradicate any and all sicknesses.
다틴데 신다 단다티 카르사 다틴데 뜨베나 측지요래 다티 다저 tension signal lekson ba chogi jisu loba lo koba tamje ringdo de nigun zawa dokchero sejiya dati gyutuda 전신 시그널 렉송바 다 좀된 데라 다 좀된 데기 키랑기 돼 치다와신 식세 키랑기 숭배 된 데라 라바이나 키랑기 된 숭배 된 데라 소소이 냠내자 라바이나 쿠바 탐제 릉도 토로스 쿠바스는 미드베다 강에 탐제 양릉부 자주 그랬어 이 균생 카레르스나 니군 짜와 독체로 냐바군지 짜와 마리과 도바치비시를 소티르 때때때때 나라 지르부지 송 어디
So we can also see this from the Praise to Dependent Arising written by Lama Tsongkhapa, and there's a quote which obviously I cannot give verbatim, but the meaning is by realizing how you, the Buddha, explained how things exist, and by realizing them in the way that they exist, one can get rid of the root of all of the problems, or the root of all of the suffering and so forth. So by realizing phenomena in the way that they were explained by the Buddha, one can then generate the wisdom of realizing dependent origination, and therefore get rid of the source of all sufferings and problems.
진짜래 제자다 셔럽 세대 같은다라 다 쉬우지 계신분이 봐지 다 나는 좀 셔럽 님보 세제 송도 다 셔럽 님보 쓰네야 고당질라래 셔럽 망부에 bed는 님보디 돈이 더 셔럽 라시야 셔럽 님보 쓰는 뒤에 고추고도 와 연하면은 셔럽 님보 세기 셔럽 님보데 가서는 돈이 더 셔럽 되었어 아 독스네야 고알래 용도 와
So yeah, this obviously is the most, the crux of all these teachings here is the training in this wisdom. We can also see that when we're talking about the Heart Sutra, which in Tibetan is called wisdom or heart of Sherab Ginying. So the heart of wisdom, or the wisdom, the Heart Sutra is called the Heart Sutra for the reason that the heart being the most important organ in the body. Likewise, this wisdom realizing emptiness is considered the most important of all wisdoms. So you can also see that this could also be referred to what kind of wisdom is the most important kind, the one that is like the heart.
다들 다 돈다 다 당한저 다 투조 조도 다 돈다인다 미타바 동아와 동아 세디 탑시지래 니모뭐 매바스야라 편도요라고 심마 칼레 니모도 다 니모라바든 칼레 매바스야기 탑시지래 미타바곰 동아와곰 동아곰치 아니 뭐라거든 때스 누버추야 탑시들 다 니모 쪼니 매바스야기다 탑시 유나면은 다 다음에 또 비셔 다음에 세대다 제시에 뭐보여 돼 있나다 터지기 좋다 체제 다 세대 란정원에 투여 말다스 어디 시비 로딜라 다 다음에 또 비셔 다티다 유나면은 시작이요래 요 시럽 세대다 어디에 겁서도 시럽이 냠내서 시럽도 어디
So the wisdom in this context here, when before we talk about these four attributes of the First Noble Truth, meaning the wisdom, understanding things as impermanent, understanding things as being in the nature of suffering, and understanding things being empty. These two are methods in the sense that they can be used to reduce suffering, not to erase it from the root. This is why training in this, the last one, the selflessness, especially here, as explained in the Prasangika system, the wisdom, realizing that the emptiness of inherent existence of the self and all phenomena. This, is the main object of training here, and is the main one that is referred to when we're talking about here the wisdom that sees the profound suchness. So this is the time is kind of running out, but the main object of explanation here, of this explanation of wisdom, rather than the method aspect, so to speak, that was explained in the first 5 perfections. Here, when we're talking about the perfection of wisdom, we're talking about the wisdom that realizes the ultimate mode of reality and the importance of training in that.
뜻은 다 드네 마디 록샤나 디와데 코마데와 김도가 다 다디 두와티 로나 lokshana tikido tiningan ze zam shayin zizi samze zamla koan zawa zebe naba matangshin shini lamda de sheradi sizam ze nimu mido bes ilo puda zebe sheradi ime shine dala gyene tada umerikbe tsunegi tajimi de tamzi jikjebe sushin zebe yangbe sheradi dingi debe lodo gyaba zola me nyamne de tada daya teji kyang tsa lo so tibo lokshana hadi makoa metota.
So the next bit is from here. I think is fairly easy to understand. If you look in the text, there's not some things that are hard to understand. So in the mere one-pointed concentration, I fail to see the potency to cut the root of psychic existence. Yet in the wisdom devoid of the path of tranquil abiding, no matter how much one may probe, the afflictions will not be overcome. So this wisdom, decisively penetrating the true mode of being, the learned ones saddle it astride the horse of unwavering calm abiding, and with the sharp weapon of reasoning the middle way free from extremes, they dismantle the locus of objectification of the mind grasping at the extremes. With such expansive wisdom, that probes the position, the learned ones enhance the wisdom, realizing the suchness Ida Yogi have practiced in this manner, and you who aspire for liberation should do likewise. So here is basically talking about the union of calm abiding and special insight. But having explained all the subject previously, I think there's not much that cannot be understood.
Okay. That tipado loxeta jama tuzu chona di shugudi dini. Jama tuzura chona di shugudi pezen sabjigla tayaro china pezen digechire jama tuzu chungsuna otire. Dini pezen zohayro chire lamre nyamkuti.
So I will leave it here for today, and then since seeing that there is not much left in the text, maybe we can have one more class, and then I'm thinking we can finish the rest of this songs of experience.
Oh yeah, tushana. Kiran tsela kharishugo.
Ngarang? Ngarang?
Kiran mingla kharere.
Zundu, Losang Zundu.
Oh yeah, Losang Zundu la tuji che otire.
Yeah, that's Tujina.
Ya pudu tanga nike de rachudo ya pudu ochungsda.
Ah, yang gede godewuri, pe godewuri.
Oh yeah, teni ya ochungsda.
Thank you, Khen Rinpoche, also Tenzin Palmola. Thank you so much. Okay.
Tenzin Palmola translate what? In Italian or what?
Yes.
Ale.
She speaks very well Italian.
She speaks Italian?
Yeah, of course.
I see. You're not Italian. How come you speak Italian? Okay, that's good. Okay. Okay, thank you everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, Tujina.
Tucheo.
Sagi bogi joshime badi sangye chikume agi rogo anda Jejola me tuje ramdenji Kantile jojo gembada Lozande bedrome jazumi Drome nuzeta dune tioji Ida guru ratna Mendala Kataya Garira we kore shiganji Eda
Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you, Khen Rinpoche.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Good night or good morning. I don't know, whatever. Okay.
Thank you so much, Khen Rinpoche.
Thank you. Yeah.